Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, which is MOED KATAN Daf Chavdalet. Perhaps let's just go back to the top of the Amud. Ba'oi minei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda asks Shmuel the following shaila: Yesh avelus b'Shabbos. Does avelus apply on Shabbos? Tosfos explains, we're speaking about dvarim shebetzina, concealed, hidden things, such as refraining from Tashmish Hamita. So, would that apply on Shabbos? Or ein avelus b'Shabbos, or perhaps Shabbos is incompatible with avelus altogether. Amar he responds, this is Shmuel, ein avelus b'Shabbos. Indeed, there is no avelus on Shabbos. Tosfos brought in the name of the Yerushalmi. It's based on a pasuk, Birchas Hashem Yitasher, time for bracha. There is no sadness on Shabbos. Bracha denotes expansion, generosity, rather than atzvah, sadness, which reflects constriction. Now, actually, Tosfos points out that Rabbi Yehuda himself did not accept this. As we're going to see later on in the Amud, he personally held that dvarim shebetzina does apply on Shabbos as well. Zok the Gemara, Yasvi Rabbanon kamed Rapapa. There was some Talmidim, some Rabbanon sitting in front of Rapapa, v'ka'amri, and they were quoting Mishmei de Shmuel. Shmuel said as follows: Avel sheshimish mitasa b'mei evloi chayav misa. If an avel neglects the Tashmish Hamita restrictions, he proceeds b'mei evloi, he is chayav misa. Rashi and Ksaviyat says, of course, meaning misa b'dei shemayim, for neglecting the concept of avelus to this extent. Rapapa, listening to this, responds, Amar lehu Rapapa, osur itmar. Actually, it's not as severe as you presented. It's just asur. There's no misa involved, number one, and also you've misquoted it. Mishmed Rabbi Yechanan itmar, it was actually quoted in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, and don't attribute it to Shmuel. Now, if there's anything that indeed you have heard in the name of Shmuel, it's the following thing. It's regarding other things, letting hair grow, doing kriya. That is critical and important to the extent that it can generate a misa consequence. Amar of Tachlifa barabim amar Shmuel, aval shalei para. If an aval failed to let his hair grow, v'shalei piram didn't do kriya, didn't tear his clothing, chayav misa. This generates misa, and we have a pasuk which is used as a sort of a remez to this point. Hashem tells the Bnei Aaron, look, you've experienced the loss, but don't let your hair grow, don't tear your clothing, and don't be concerned that perhaps it's going to result in misa for neglecting your avelus, something which would apply typically. No, in your case, you're exempt, you're a kayin, you're in the Beis Hamikdash, you will not experience misa. We have a diuk, ha'acher shalei para v'shalei pirem chayav misa. Apparently, you're a normal avel who fails to observe hilchas avelus, cuts his hair, doesn't cut his clothing, chayav misa. And of course, this is just an asmachta, because the simple pshat in the pasuk is that Hashem is telling them, you don't follow the avelus procedure because you are kohanim in the mikdash, and by doing that, by failing, by ignoring the avelus, so to speak, by allowing the kahuna to override that, v'lo samusu, that will ensure that you're safe. So that's the pshat in the pasuk. But the remez is that don't be concerned about misa. That generally applies when one neglects avelus. You're not in that category. Amar Rafram Papa Tana. We learned in a brisa called Be'evel Rabasi. So there were two parts to the Masechta containing brises discussing halachas of avelus. We have Maseches Smachis, and we have another portion called Evel Rabasi, the larger section of this Masechta, which contains the majority of the brises discussing halachas avel. So what did we learn over there? Avel asula shamash mitasu may evloi. An avel may not do shimush hamita be may evloi ubemaisa. In fact, there was a story be'echat shemish mitasu may evloi, this fellow who neglected or ignored this restriction. And what happened? V'shamtu chazirim. Eskviyasai, swines pulled apart his body. Some say the Ever HaZachar as a midah keneged midah for his inappropriate behavior. Omar Shmuel. Now we're going to proceed to avelus b'Shabbos. Certainly, all agree avelus b'farhesia, a public display of avelus, is incompatible with the Shabbos, and therefore says Shmuel, pachaz choiva. Pachaz represents three things: pei, ches, zayin. that must be done on Shabbos to avoid any impression that he's observing Avelus. However, Neser, referring to three other things, Rishus, that's voluntary, don't have to do that. Explains the Gemara. Pachaz stands for Priyas HaReish. He needs to uncover his wrapped head. Unlike an Avel who wraps his head, he has to uncover that. B'megala the Reish, to show that he's not an Avel. Chazeres Kara Lachirav. Turning the torn portion of his beged behind him, flipping it around and covering it so it's not visible on Shabbos. That he must do to avoid appearing like an Avel on Shabbos. Thirdly, Zekifas Amita, turning the bed back upright. That he must do, otherwise he's displaying Avelos b'Shabbos. So these three are chayv obligatory. However, the ilas sandal, obligating him to wear shoes, that you don't have to, because not everybody wears shoes. It's not an indication. It isn't necessarily a raya is an aval. He doesn't have to wear shoes. Tashon Shamita, avoiding Tashon Shamita, that's also voluntary, because remember, Shmuel was the one who held ein Avelos b'Shabbos. So technically, there is no chiyuv to observe any sort of Avelos b'Shabbos. So Tashon Shamita, he can refrain from if he wants to, but he doesn't have to. Likewise, rinsing hands and feet with warm water on Shabbos itself, l'kavod Shabbos. That is also rishus. You don't have to do that because not everybody gets to do it. So avoiding it isn't necessarily a raya of Avelos. The Rav Amar, he adds another one to the list of rishus. Af priyas HaReish rishus, uncovering one's wrapped head, is also voluntary. And the Gemara will explain soon, because you see, Shmuel held the proper atifa for an avel is ka'atifas yishmeelim, a very substantial type of atifa, a full wrap. Having that on Shabbos is a true indication of avelos. You have to get rid of it. But Rav held even a slight wrapping is sufficient, and therefore it isn't necessarily a true indication of avelos if one should walk around like that. Therefore, he says it's voluntary. You don't have to necessarily uncover the atifa. Asks the Gemara, Ushmuel, Ma'ishna nilas hasandal de rishus. Why is it that Shmuel maintains wearing shoes is voluntary? Because the lav kuli almi avidi. Not everybody necessarily proceeds. The Saimim San Ayu wear shoes all the time. Perhaps he's just not wearing shoes for whatever reason. And therefore, it isn't necessarily an indication of Avelos, and therefore it's not obligatory. It's not a chiyuv for an Avel to wear shoes on Shabbos. Priyas HaReish Nami, regarding unwrapping one's head, there as well, lav kuli alma avidu, de megali reishayu. Not necessarily everybody will have uncovered heads on Shabbos, and therefore we shouldn't be mechayiv him to do so. Having a slightly covered head isn't necessarily an indication of Avelos. So what's the big deal? Answers the Gemara, Shmuel tamei, because Shmuel follows his personal shita, the Amar Shmuel. Two things he tells us regarding Avelos. Number one, Kol kera she'einoi b'shas chimam ene kera. Kriya on one's clothing needs to be b'shas chimam. Rashi learns b'shas ha'cholas hatzar, b'shas misa, when the heart's still warm and fully agitated during the shas misa. Tosfos learns it means kol zayin, as long as it's still fresh, as long as the tragedy is still fresh, kriya is valid. But once it wanes, once it loses its freshness, the kriya is not a valid kriya. That's number one. Regarding atifas HaReish, which an avel does, how extensive? V'chol atifa she'ena ka'atifas yishmaelim, any atifa which does not appear like the atifa conducted by the Ishmaelim, who wrap their whole face around with their whole, that's not considered a proper atifa for an avel. So should an avel have this on Shabbos, it's avelos for Hesed. Therefore, Shmuel is machayev, removal of this priyas HaReish. Whereas Rav, he holds even a slight atifa sufficient. So just because the avel is slightly wrapped, doesn't necessarily denote avelos, and therefore it's okay if he keeps it on. How extensive is this atifas Yishmaelim? Machvi Rav Nachman showed on himself ad gubi de dikna, until the crevices of the beard. Some say it means the bottom of the chin. In the case, a full wrap is required. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yehuda, lo yishanu. What is their concern? Some of us learn like this. See, Rabbi Yehuda himself, his personal opinion is yesh avelos b'Shabbos b'tzina, as we're going to see soon in the Gemara. So technically, b'tzina, it's okay for an avel to conduct all forms of avelos, and perhaps even wrapping his head. But perhaps we're speaking about an avel who's concerned. It's inconsistent with Shabbos. He's concerned. He wants to be machmer. Says Rabbi Yehuda, the concern can only apply elo she'en lo min olam b'raglav. He's not wearing shoes. Then perhaps he can appear like an avel, and he might not be happy with that. But the way around it is as follows: aval yesh lo min olam b'raglav. Let's say he's actually wearing shoes on Shabbos. In this case, he can do what he wants because min olav mechich and olav. The fact that he's wearing shoes is the biggest indication that it's not avelos. So this way he can wrap his head and not be concerned about interfering with the concept of Shabbos. Let's go back to Shmuel. It tells us Kriya takes place immediately after the passing, after the death. Kol kera she'ena b'shas chimum ena kera, unless the kera is done at the time of chimum, when he's agitated, his heart's warm and connected to the loss. Unless it's done then, it doesn't have much value. Really? V'ha'amr le'le Shmuel. They once told Shmuel that Rav passed away, Noch nafshe de Rav. And this happened way after the fact. And Shmuel responded with a kriya. Kara le treser mani. He tore 12 begadim. First one today, at the point of Misa. Next day he changed his clothing, he ripped again. Next day again, until 12 days, which is way past the Shiva. Amar, he exclaimed as follows: I'm in distress. I'm so sad upon Rav's passing. Look what happened. Ozal Gavra. Look at this man who left us. Dava mistafina minei. I was fearful of him. Rashi says, Bekushes. He used to challenge me with heavy hitting questions. And the Farshim say, that compelled me to prepare my learning properly. He set me straight. He ensured that I had clarity in learning. What am I going to do now? Perhaps I'll err in my learning. There's another story with Rabbi Yehuda. Amr le'ed Rabbi Yehuda. Noch nafshi Reb Chanina. Reb Chanina passed away. Again, kar aleit leisar. Itzli milsa. He tore, on his account, 13 Itzli milsa silk robes. One today, one tomorrow. Amar, he announced as follows: Ozal Gavra. You know who left us? A man that Dava Mistafina many that I have pachad from. I was fearful of him. This was a great loss. So Kriya can take place way after the fact, and it works. Answers the Gemara. Here it's different. Shani Rabban. When a Talmid Chacham leaves, it's different. The kivan the kol shat, because since on a regular basis, mit kirishma tayu, their halachis, their lessons are quoted and learned in the Beis HaMedrash. Kishas chimum dami. It's considered shas chimum. Their memory is still fresh and real. It's relevant. The loss is happening right now. It's felt today as it was felt then, and therefore, even past the Shiva, Kriya is in place. We have another kasha on this. Malay Rabin. Bar Adelu Rav, he tells Rav, Amar Tamitcha, you know, your Talmud, Rav Amram said as follows. He presented a price, Tanya. Avel, Kol Shiva, throughout the Shiva period, Kaira Lefanav. The torn portion of his beged is in front of him, is visible, is displayed Lefanav. Vimbola Hachlef. If he decides to switch his shirt, Machlef, he can do that, but he has to re-tear the second shirt again. This is past Chimum. Chimum means on account of the tragedy. During Shiva, one time, but once he did Kriya once, the Chimum is over. He already expressed his agitation, it's over. And here we learn, even the next day when he changes his shirt, he performs another Kriya. The Brisa continues, B'Shabbos. Suppose he wants to change his shirt for Shabbos, Kir La'achrav. Sorry, B'Shabbos Kir La'achrav. On Shabbos, standard procedure is to hide, to flip around the torn portion so it's not visible. He turns it La'achrav. V'Imbol La'achrav. If he chooses to change his shirt for Shabbos, Machav, he can do so, V'Eine Korea, he doesn't tear it when he puts on the new shirt, the covered Shabbos. In any case, it's clear that Kriya takes place even later on, at a later date. Even after Kriya, of chimum already happened, he does another kriya the next day. What's the point of that kriya? It's not kriya b'shas chimum. Kitanya he becovered of ima. We're speaking about parents. True, it's not the standard kriya b'shas chimum, but he can't wear a beged during the shiva. That's not torn. So on account of this special mitzvah of kibbul v'aim, he has to re-tear the beged, although this is not your standard uniform type of kriya. And therefore, says the Gemara, we have a shaila on that. How do we treat the second kera? So the first kera, b'shas chimum, is a proper kera, as we learned a few days ago by Ovi Imoy. You don't even make a temporary stitch. You don't do shoylel until 30, and ma'achen, which refers to a proper restoration, that's not done forever. You just leave it as such. What about this extra credit kriya, which is done the covered of Avi Imai? Oisen kroin mesachen, can they be restored? Or in mesachen, or perhaps we treat it like a regular kriya which doesn't allow restoration. Rav Machlokes. Pligiba avod Rav Oishia ubar kapara. There's a machlokes between Rav Oishia's father and bar kapara. Chadama, one maintains, ein mesachen, we treat it like a regular kriya, we cannot restore it. Chadamar, the other one maintains, mesachen, you may restore it because this is only a covered of imoy. This is not the true kriya b'shas misa. You can go and fix it up. This time we can prove. This time literally means lashon simon. We can have an indication about who said what. The avod Rabbi Isha, it was Rabbi Isha's father who said the amar ein mesachen, even the second tier cannot be restored. The amar Rabbi Isha, because Rabbi Isha, his own son, says ein mesachen, they cannot be restored. Let's assume, who did he hear the halacha from? Let's assume from his father. Apparently his father holds as such. And says the Gemara Loi, perhaps not. Mi bar kapara, Rabbi Shmuel, he actually heard it from his Rebbe bar kapara. Bar kapara is the one who holds ein mesachen, but perhaps Rabbi Isha's father himself holds mesachen. So we have no right. Amar Rava. Avel. On Shabbos, an Avel can be metayel bu'unkli b'seich beise. He can walk around wearing his torn robe in his house because it's Avelus B'tzina. Abaye ashkech Rav Yosef. In fact, Abaye meets Rav Yosef on Shabbos when he was an Avel in his house. The Parasle Sudra Resha, he had a sudra, a scarf wrapped around his head. V'ozl v'asav beise, and was walking about in his house. Omar Le, Abaye asks him, Le Savala Mar in Avelus B'Shabbos. What about in Avelus B'Shabbos? You're not meant to display Avelus on Shabbos. Omar Le, he responds, what do I mean? I'm in private. Hochi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Dvarim shebetzina noyig. Private Avelus does apply on Shabbos, and therefore in my own home, that's private Avelus, and we do it. Taisus brings B'Shem de Bahag, that's how we paskin. Rabbi Yechanan, Dvarim shebetzina noyig b'Shabbos. Now, it's interesting because Shmuel told us Pachaz Choyva. There are certain things you may not do on Shabbos. For instance, you have to fix your bed, you have to restore the bed, turn it back upright. Now we're speaking in one's bedroom. Why is that considered a problem on Shabbos? It's Betzinas. The Mefarshim say, even though it's in one's home, because it's something so clear and evident, it's something so clearly Avelus related, so even though it's in the privacy of his home, that's considered a farhesi, as an element of a farhesi, can be easily noticed, and therefore that has to be addressed. As opposed to just a sudar on his head, it isn't necessarily Avelus. Chances are it is, but it doesn't have the same level as Kfiyas Hamita, which only an Avel would do, and therefore that has to be addressed on Shabbos, as opposed to Sudar Areshe. Once it's in his home, it's considered Dvar Shebetzina, and it's Mutter on Shabbos. Okay, so what do we learn? Avelus b'Shabbos, Machlokes, Shmuel says no, Rabbi Yechanan says yes. Of course, we're speaking about Avelus B'tzina only. Public displays of Avelus are not allowed on Shabbos. We learned about the type of atifa that has to be done. According to Shmuel, Atifas Yishmael, it's an extensive type of atifa. Kriya is b'shas chimum. So during the Shiva period, the first Kriya is the Kriya of Shas Chimum. The subsequent Kriyas do not constitute Shas Chimum. We have one exception, as Talmud Chacham, as the Gemara says, whenever we remember him and recall him, that refreshes the tragedy, and that's called Shas Chimum as well. Zok the Gemara, Reb Lezer Omer, Mishachara Beis Hamikdash, Atzeres Kashabbos. Let's go back to the Mishnah. Yom Tov is a zman of simcha, it overrides Avelus. Not only does it override the Avelus, it cuts it short. It shortens it. It minimizes it. So if a person has already experienced somewhat of the Shiva experience, the Gemara Paskin, even one day, even one moment, and then regular arrives, it cuts short the Shiva. It's as though he observed 7 days of Shiva, it's over. He had a compacted Shiva. What if he's already in the Shloshim? And then regular arrives, it cuts short the Shloshim as well. What is considered a regal? What is considered a Zman Yom Tov? So according to Rabbi Gamliel, well, Pesach and Sukkot are givens. Even Shavuos, even Bizman Hazeh, where it's just a one-day occasion, as opposed to Bizman HaMikdash, when it was really a 7-day affair, because you had the Yom Tov and the following 6 days to bring your it's called Yimei Tashlumin, so the Yom Tov sort of extended past the actual Yom Tov. It was a 7-day event. Bizman Hazeh, we don't have the Mikdash. Still, Rabbi Gamliel maintains, once a regal, always a regal. It has the same chashivas as a regular regal. Not only that, according to Rabbi Gamliel, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur as well are considered a regal, even though technically they're not Zmani Simcha, they're Zmani Yira and Tshuva. We don't even say Halal. But as the Ramban points out, Hukshu Kol HaRegalim Zelazeh, all Yom Tovim are in the same boat. We don't differentiate. And they also have the ability to cut short the Shiva or the Shloshim, depending on the situation. In fact, that's the halacha. Whether it's Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, has din of a regal and it cuts short the Avilas. Some applied Rav Gidl Bar Menashe's halacha, the fact that he paskin the halacha, they applied it to a different topic altogether. On what? On the following brayse. The brayse describes various levels of avilas, depending on the age of the child, depending on the extent, the magnitude of the tragedy, depending on the maturity of the child, depending on how much cover you have to give to the child. It all depends on age and maturity. We have different levels of avilas. The Sanya, we learned in the brayse. Kol lamed yom. If a newborn passes away, Rachmana litzlan, within 30 days of birth, we're not so machmer when it comes to his avilas. It's considered like a neifel, not really a viable child, and therefore tinoik yoytze bechek, we carry him out by hand. V'nikbra, we bury him with just 3 people, and even one of them could be an isha, b'isha achas, v'shnei anoshim, with 1 woman, 2 men. That's okay. Avaloi b'ish echad, v'shnei anoshim, but not the other way around. You can have 1 man with 2 women. We're concerned about yichud, even in this circumstance. Abashol Oimei says no. It's a time of avilas. They're not going to be sidetracked and behaving properly. Therefore, af b'ish echad shtei noshim, you can have 1 man with 2 women taking care of the kvura of this neifel. So we bury him, but that's it. Ve'ein oim din alav b'shura. We don't apply all the other halachas. We don't go through the procedure of avelis. We don't stand in line where the avelim pass by and they comfort it. We don't do that. Ve'ein oim alav brichas avelim. We don't say the bracha. V'tanchumi avelim. We don't say makim menachem. We don't do all that. Ben Shloshim, once he reaches 30, Taisus points out that day 30 is considered like less than 30. So Ben Shloshim means he's past 30. He's considered a ber kayam, he has mochashivas. We give him more covet. Yoytze bid luskuma, we carry him out, Rashi says, an aron in a coffin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo luskuma hanetelis bekotev. It can't be a small box that you can just carry on one's shoulder. Ela netelis bagapayim, you need 2 people carrying a bigger one. V'oim din olav b'shura, we make the shura, the row where they get the tanchumen. V'oim olav birchas avelim, b'tanchumi avelim, we do everything we need to do. Ben Yubeis Chodesh, once he's 12 months old, he's already a year old, we carry him out in a mita, which makes it more real, more tangible. It's more derech covered. Rabbi Akiva disagrees. He says you need a 2-year-old. Or at least he should look like a 2-year-old. Should look as mature as a 2-year-old as far as body size. Hu ben shana, let's say he's 1-year-old, ve'rarv k'ben shtayim. As far as his appearance, he looks like a 2-year-old. His parents treat him like a 2-year-old. Look at my mature son. So that generates bitter feelings of a tragic. It's a terrible tragedy, and therefore he deserves this mita. Hu ben shtayim, or let's say he's really 2 years old, ve'erar ben shana, and as far as his appearance, he just looks like a 1-year-old. In this case as well, since he's really 2 years old, he deserves more kavod. Yoytze b'mita, we carry him out in a mita. Now, what's the difference if he's in a mita or not? We have another nafkamina here. Reb Shimon al-Zo'imer, hayoytze b'mita, any mace that's meant to be carried out with a mita, it's meant to generate, meant to elicit a more intense reaction on account of the tzibur. Rabbi matzivin alav, according to Rashi Ksav, Rabbi mitzavchen alav. The public responds by crying out, by calling out in distress. It makes it more tangible, more real. He's more exposed. It's more of a real tragedy, and that's how he's meant to respond when the mace is carried out with a mita. But any it's a mita, mace which who's younger doesn't deserve this mita. Ein Rabbi matzivim alav. Likewise, the reaction isn't as intense. So if he's taken out in a mita, it generates this matzivin. If he's just taken out in a different manner, a box, etc., it doesn't have this reaction. Rabbi Lezer Zayu Omer, he has a chiddush, and it's a kula. Tanakama maintained that even a 30-month-old elicits tanchumei avelim. They come and they comfort the avelim. Rabbi Lezer Zayu says like this: Nika l'rab, if the toddler, is known to all. Rashi says he wanders out of the home. People know him. They recognize him. Then Rabbim is asking Imboy. It's incumbent on the Rabbim to come and join and to be menachem the avelim. They can relate to the tragedy. But Ein Nikol Rabbim. Suppose he's a real youngster. Is not yet known to the Rabbim. He's just a little baby at home. Ein Rabbim is asking Imboy. The Rabbim are not obligated to go and be menachem aval. Apparently because they can't relate to it. It's something that's it's not really real to them. It's not tangible to them, and therefore tanchumi avelim is not in place. What about hesped for a youngster? Umahin behesped. It depends how old. Rabbi B'Shem B'Shmol Eimer. Aniyim, a child of a poor man. B'nei shalish. So these children, as soon as they're 3 years old, they deserve a hesped. Ashirim, children of wealthy parents, b'nei chamesh, until 5, there's no hesped. What's the difference? So Rashi here learns, Lefisha ani mitzayral banav Yosef and Asher. Ani is more distressed upon the passing of his child. Lefisha ein l'simcha acheres. He has no other source of joy. He doesn't have millions in the bank. He has his children. That's his pride and his joy, and therefore he's more distressed. And even when they're younger, he's affected more than an Asher. And that's why by the ani, a 3-year-old elicits this tremendous tsar, which requires hesped, as opposed to by the Asher, it's only a 5-year-old. The Ran says, look, the ani expends so much effort for tuition to raise his child. It comes hard. He invests much more into the child than the Asher, and therefore the child is very dear to him. There's extra chavivas, and even if he's just 3 years old, it carries the same value as a 5-year-old by an Asher. Rabbi Yehuda, the name of Rabbi Shmuel, says we bump it up a little bit. Aniyim b'nei chamesh. By the aniyim, it's a 5-year-old that requires the hesped. Ashir b'nei sheish. By an Asher, it's just a 6-year-old. U'b'nei zekenim. What about a child of older parents that also has extra value? The parents are relying on the child to assist them. Ben zekunim has extra value. The parents know that's it. This is the last. So they want that hemshech, and they're very distressed. Lo yaleinu, if they are experiencing a tragic loss, and therefore kibnei aniyim, we treat it like a bnei aniyim. It's the same age category. Here we have Rav Gidl. Rav Gidl. Bar Menashe Amar Rav, Halach Rabbi Yehuda, She'amar Mishum Yishmol. We follow Rabbi Yehuda's formula. It's 5 by the aniyim and 6 by the ashur. Let's go back to Regel, to the topic on hand. Dorash Rab Anani Bar Sasson. Rav Anani Bar Sasson got up and he said a drasha ashir apischa de v'nasiya by the entranceway of the Nasi's home. I saw from one of the Rishonim. Why would they do that? You find elsewhere as well. They would go and speak. They would say the drashas, the halacha at the Pesach of the Beis Hanasi. He says, look, it gives it mochashivas. They spoke at the Rav's house. They said this and this. This way they would speak over there and give it more formality, made it more reliable and prone to acceptance. So what did he say? Yom Tov is mevatel the shloshim. Yom Tov is mevatel shiva. Okay, now let's say a person had 1 day of shiva, so he's not yet in the shloshim. But shiva, he already experienced somewhat. Regel arrives. Regel cuts down the shiva. It's as though he had the whole shiva. It's as though he had 7 days. But now he proceeds to shloshim. That's unaffected by the regel because he's not yet in the shloshim territory for the regel to interfere. Regel overrides the situation that he's already in. So that's one point. And number two, he paskin, like we said before, that even atzeres, bisman hazeh, shvuos, nowadays has a din of a regel. Here comes a chiddush. So he's finished with the shiva, but he has to count shloshim. Now you may remember back on Avchaf, the Gemara tells us that the days of Yom Tov can be counted for shloshim. Why? Because there are some elements of Avelis that apply to regel as well. We don't cut here during regel, albeit for a different reason. But the fact is, practically speaking, he is complying with some halachas of shloshim, and therefore it can count for the shloshim as well. So the days of Yom Tov can be counted for the 30. The chiddush here is that Yom Tov, even Shavuos, which is really just a 1 day Yom Tov, has a din like 7 days. It's a 7-day event. Why? Tesa says because Bisman HaMikdash, it was a 7-day event. They would make up the karbanos for the next 6. So it was a 7-day event. Likewise, Bisman HaZeh, we stuck to that formula. Just as Pesach and Sukkot are 7-day events, Shavuos as well has value like 7 days. And therefore, he gets a discount. It's as though he had 7 days of shloshim. And he starts from day 8. After Yom Tov, he starts from day 8. Or day 9 if he started before Yom Tov, right? So it's 1 day, then Yom Tov, and then he's at day 9 right now. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres. If an Aval experienced 1 day of Avelis, and then Atzeres arrives, which cuts short his Shiva, for Atzeres, and he passed through Yom Tov. After Yom Tov, he has 14 days in his pocket. Harei kan arba asar. It's 14 days. Why? Because he already had the Shiva before Yom Tov, even though it was just a 1 day Shiva. It's a 1 day Shiva. It's as though he observed the entire Shiva period. Yom Tov is valued at 7. So he's done 14. After Yom Tov, he starts with 15. The Rabbeinu Yerucham says, in Chutz La'aretz, we have 2 days Yom Tov. He's already at day 15. Because second Yom Tov counts like day 15. So Isra Chag is day 16. So this was the halacha presented by Rav Onani Bar Sasan and Amoira. What happened? Shama Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami heard this halacha. V'ikved. He was upset. Amar, he says, is this his chiddush? This is a known chiddush presented by a Tana. After the day, is this his own personal chiddush that he's introducing? It's old news. Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Yeshi. We're going to see soon. Rabbi Lezer was the one who says that Atzeres has tashlumin. If one didn't bring his carbon on the first day of Shavuos, he has 6 days to make that up. So the Shavuos event lasts for 7 days. And this is the yesod of this concept, says Rami. This is the core of this whole yesod. This is the lesson here. This is the chiddush. So it's his chiddush, it's not yours. So although Rav Oishi never spoke about Avelis, he wasn't speaking about halachas Avelis, but karbanos. But Rav Ami connected the dots. Rabbi Lezer already taught us this concept, that Shavuos is a 7-day event, and certainly when it comes to Avelis, we treat it as such. We treat it like a 7-day event, and it counts towards its shloshim. It's not your chiddush, it's his chiddush. Here's another story. Dora Shabi Yitzchak Nafcha. So he taught Akila at the entrance room, the Reish Galusa's home. Yom Echad Lefnei Atzeres, Ve'atzeres, Harikana Basar, same halacha. Again, Shema of Sheshes, this time it was him. Ikbad, he was upset. Amar Atu the day, is that his chiddush? To Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshi, it's Rabbi Lezer's chiddush. To Amar Rabbi Lezer and Rabbi Yeshi, Menayin Latzeres, Sheyesh Latashtum Kol Shiva. From where do we know that one could make up missing karbanis for 6 days running? for 6 days after Shavuos. Shenema, the pasuk says, B'chag hamatzis, B'chag hashavuos, B'chag hasukkos. We equate all the Yom Tovim. Ma chag hamatzis yesh latashlim kol shiva. Just as on Pesach, you can make up the missing carbon throughout the entire 7-day Pesach period. Throughout Chol HaMoed, that's Pashut. Af chag hashavuos yesh latashlim kol shiva. Same on Shavuos, even though it's really just a 1-day Yom Tov, but it has a 6-day makeup period. Bottom line is, Shavuos is a 7-day event, and therefore we treat it as such when it comes to Avelis as well. Even Bizman Hazeh, we treat it like 7 days. So once he had this Yom Echad beforehand, which was cut short, so he has his Avelis right there, 7 days right there. Atzeres, this 1/7-day event is considered like 7 days. Come after Shavuos, he's holding at day 15 of Ishleishim. Here comes another chiddush. Adbere Rav Papa. Rav Papa convinced, he invited Rav Abi Saba to come take a walk with him. But Dorish, and he told him like this. The same applies to Rosh Hashanah. Yom Echad of Rosh Hashanah. If you had 1 day, merely 1 day of Avelis before Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah, and then we have Rosh Hashanah that comes along. So that compacts the Shiva. It cuts off the Shiva. It's already past Shiva. So Rosh Hashanah itself is also the Yom Tov like any other, and therefore Harei Kan Arbasa, we treat it like he's experienced 14 days of Shloshim. Amar Avina, he comes even a greater Chiddush. Hilkach, therefore, following in line with this formula, what's going to happen if Yom Echad of Chag, he had Shiva 1 day before Sukkot, V'chag, and he passed through Sukkot, 7 days, Ushmina Shloi, plus Shmini Atzeres, which is really a separate Yom Tov. Guess where he's holding? In the Shloshim. Harei Kana Esrim Ve'echad Yom, he's passed 21 days of Shloshim. He starts at 22. When Chutzlar is 23. Why? Because the same thing. The Shiva he had beforehand, 7 days of Sukkot is another 7, takes him to 14. Shmini Atzeres, although it's just a 1-day Yom Tov, but Yom Tov is Yom Tov, we give it a din like 7, as a Chashiva, it's like a full week. So now he's past 21. There was a story involving Ravina. Ikla, he visited Lusura the Pras, the town of Sura near the river Pras. Amali Rav Chaviva Misura the Pras. So Chaviva, the local Chaviva, turns to Ravina. Ravina Amar Mar, he says, did you say the following halacha? Did you say this? I heard in your name that you said, Yom Echad lefnei Rosh Hashanah, v'Rosh Hashanah, Harei Kan Arbasa, considered like 14 days? Is that what you said? Really, he didn't. He spoke about Sukkot. He didn't speak about Rosh Hashanah. He says, look, I'm not disagreeing, but don't blame it on, I didn't say it. All I said was like this, Mistavra, Kirabon Gamliel, I said that it's plausible, it's probable, that Rabbi Gamliel's shita is correct. He was the one who said that Rosh Hashanah and Kippur are considered like a regal that can cut short the Avelis. If he's during Shiva, can cut short the Shiva. During Shloshim, cut short the Shloshim. That's all I said. I didn't take it a step further to the point that we treat Rosh Hashanah and Kippur like 7 days. I didn't say that. I'm not disagreeing. I didn't say that. It was actually the other Rav Amar. It was Rav Papa who said it, right? He said Rosh Hashanah counts like 7 days. That's what we do Bizman Hazeh as well. Lach L'maisa, if one had even just a short moment of Avelis before the Yom Tov, his Shiva is up. So although he still has to count the Shloshim, but the regal can count towards the Shloshim. And even a short-lived regal like a Shavuos or Rosh Kippur is valued at 7. In the case of Shavuos, we have a total of 14. In the case of Sukkot, we can end up with 21 because of the Shmini Atzeres element as well. So what is a regal? All regal. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Kippur all count as a regal, can cut short the Avelis and are counted like 7 days each. Okay, what did we learn today? We learned about Avelis B'Shabbos. By Dvarim Shebetzina, we have a Machlokes. Tesis Paskins that there is Avelis Shebetzina. And Abba is meant to be very careful with his Avelis restrictions. Tashan Shamita, Priya Prima, according to some, there's a Chiyav Misa for neglecting these things. Chiyav Misa B'dei Shamayim. Avelis B'Faresi B'Shabbos must be avoided. The concept of Kriya is an expression of agitation, b'shas chimum, when things are really fresh and intense. It's only the first time. Teich Zayin, that's it. But subsequent kriyas are not considered b'shas chimum. One exception is Talmud Chacham. And parents, even the kriya shniya is required, meaning if he switches begadmi, he has to be kriya again. L'kavod avayim. Can they be restored? Oisen kroimis achin. We have machlikas. We have various levels of avelus, depending on the age of the child, his chashivas, and the tragedy experienced upon his loss. If he's within 30 days, we minimize. Once he's 30, we pick it up a notch. Yud Beis Chodesh even more, and we have the 2-year-old. Regarding a hesped, the psak is a 5-year-old by bnei aniyim, 6-year-old by bnei ashirim, bnei zakedim k'bnei aniyim. Regel cuts short the avelus, irrelevant of whether it's Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, or Yom Kippur. All the best to you and Hatzlacha Rabbah.